Hey everyone, so this is my personal video review for the 5.0 to fakie. I'm relearning how to do this trick and I'm doing it here on a 2-foot mini ramp. The goal for this video is I'm going to let the video play. There are a bunch of different attempts in this video of me trying to do the 5.0 to fakie, some that worked, some that didn't. And I'm going to leave some commentary here, but then I'm going to go through frame by frame after this how what worked and what didn't, and how I can improve the trick. So as a control, I just went ahead and did a feeble to fakie. I'm pretty comfortable with that trick. And then I started to go into the 5.0 to fakie attempts. The first thing is I had a group of attempts where I just kept pivoting around. You see those there. The next, to try to correct for that, as I think my balance was off, I started leaning back a bit more in the 5.0, but I kept on falling back into the ramp. And then once I started to get the balance, I started to try to commit to the trick, but I always have this fear that I'm going to hang up. And we started to get a few of those. That one you saw there, I just pivoted. Okay, and then we corrected for it. Okay, so let's go through these. I had the backside feeble to fakie attempt, and that one's my reference. I think this one's pretty good. My body position looks like I'm in a rock to fakie. The board is, my feet are pushing the board into the feeble. My body is open relative to the board, sort of perpendicular with my hips and my shoulders perpendicular to the rail or to the coping. I've got my body kind of out over the ramp, so I'm ready to come back in. And my chest and my belt buckle are kind of pointing into the ramp here. So I think that looks good. And then on the backside 5.0 to fakie attempts where I'm over rotating, you can see in the side by side how my chest and my belt buckle sort of open up to the ramp and my body becomes closed relative to the board. That's going to cause that rotation as I'm coming through. So I'm out of the rock to fakie position. I'm more like in a kick turn position, just causing that over rotation. So in these two frames on the left, I have this is one of the bails where I jump off the board. And you can see I have these 3 different arrows here. This small arrow that's pointing to the left from my hip, I notice my hips and my weight are all going over the deck when I'm in this position, whereas my shoulders and my torso is falling over the ramp. And so you can really see that my body is sort of in this kinked position, with my weight going one way and my torso going the other. The 2 yellow arrows, I think, really exaggerate that. So ideally, my left shoulder and my back leg would be lined up. But here I've got 2 different lines. I've got my leg doing one thing and my left shoulder and my torso doing another. So balance is way off here. We've got the foot just like pressed right up against, the back foot pressed right up against the coping. It's not giving me any balance here, and my front trucks are falling over the deck. And we can compare that to the one on the right, which was the successful attempt at the 5.0 to fakie, where you can see my hips and my torso, everything is out over the ramp. I've got my chest and my belt buckle, again, sort of pointing into the ramp, and my body's in a good sort of rock to fakie position here, but I'm using my feet to turn the board into the 5.0, and I've got kind of a good balance over that back truck since my body's all lined up over that back foot. So here I grabbed all 4 of those frames and I just put them all together so I could see side by side what they look like. And maybe the most notable thing is if you compare the feeble to fakie, the 5.0, and the 5.0 to fakie, that all were where I rolled away on each of those, versus frame D where I didn't. Immediately you can see when your hips are out of place like this, for this trick, your hips need to be in over the ramp, so you're ready to come back in from that like a rock to fakie, and the yellow lines here to show how much that's out of position. So on a couple of those attempts, I had this thing happen where as I'm coming out of the 5.0 to fakie, I start turning, right? I turn and then I power slide because my body's going, the other direction. And so here I captured 3 of those frames from one of those attempts, where you can see I'm set up in the 5-0 to fakie. I come out of it normally, but as I'm coming out of it, you can see from these arrows here, my shoulders and my hips start to open up towards the ramp, which as I'm rolling away in this like open position with my shoulders perpendicular to my board, it's going to cause my weight to start to go a little bit behind me and my board to start to turn as I'm coming out of that trick. So these ones were, this was one where I rolled away from one of the successful attempts, and we can compare this to the previous slides, where on this attempt I'm set up in the trick well, we're balanced on the 5-0, and we're coming out of it like a rocked fakie, but this time I'm able to keep my chest and my belt buckle sort of pointed towards the ramp. And then as the trick is coming back into the ramp, my board is now parallel to my shoulders or in this closed position. And the more that I can hold this, where I can keep my shoulders parallel to my board as I'm coming back into the ramp, that's going to keep reduce the amount. It's going to prevent that turning that I was seeing happen on some of my attempts. So I still have a little bit of that where my shoulders want to turn, but the more that I can reduce that and really keep my shoulders parallel to the board as it's coming back in, or as I'm re-entering the ramp, it should be able to just roll away straight towards the other side of the quarter.